We'll get started talking about becoming a research ambassador. So very quickly, I just wanted to stop for a second and talk a little bit about what NEALS is. I know we all kind of use that word, we're part of NEALS, but for anybody who may not know, NEALS is actually, was founded in 1995, and it's a membership organization of research centers around specializing in ALS. So it's definitely a research organization. It isn't an advocacy organization, but we do have an advocacy piece within it. And that's what we'll talk a little bit about. But the mission of NEALS as a whole is to translate scientific advancements into new treatments for ALS. So very science, very research. It's a little bit about me. I was a competitive gymnast and a competitive dancer. I'm just a really competitive person, which is good and which is bad for those of you who know me. Education is really important to me. I'm a lifelong learner, and I learn something every day, no matter if I'm trying to or not. I prefer to eat healthy, other than the days that I prefer Mexican food and donuts, which turns out are like every day within a pandemic, who knew? And any day that ends in Y is a good day for a donut. I love to meet new people because I truly believe that people are inherently good. I can be a little sarcastic, so I hope I don't offend anybody, but I just kind of see that as being persistent. And I am a total type A personality. Like, my son used to tell me when it was time to do laundry because his clothes were color coded and he only had dark blue shirts left. Like, I'm borderline OCD, but definitely type A personality. So this kind of sums it up. Okay, so on one side of your screen, you have eggs come out of the carton, left to right, buddy, not all willy-nilly like some crazy person. And if you just read that and you like physically started sweating, I am so glad to meet you because you are my people. Like, that means so much to me. And on the other side, to the people who lose one shoe on the side of the road, please tell me what the rest of your life is like. And if you're sitting there going, yeah, that might have happened to me a couple of times, I'm so glad to meet you, but we cannot be friends because I don't understand you. That's confusing. But of all the things I am and all the things about me, the most important thing that I am is I'm a survivor of ALS. And right now, being a survivor of ALS is a pretty tough gig because it means that you've lost somebody that you really care about to the disease. And I lost my husband, my soulmate of 20 years, Jeff, to ALS in 2016 after 380 days of our journey. So you can pause there and say, oh, he was so handsome. But while you're looking at that, I'll tell you that I believe there's a lot of hope right now, especially right now. And I believe that this is the lifetime. These are the people who can help us change what it means to be a survivor of ALS. So that's why I'm here. Why are you here? Well, I can't speak for you. I'm not sure. I'm sure you have your own reasons for being here, but hopefully it's having something to do with our own very famous person who I actually took this quote a number of years ago. She truly said it. Terry said, ALS is exactly as rare as MS, but the difference is the world knows about MS, and therefore the funding is present to continue the battle. And that really resonated with me, that we have an obligation or an opportunity or both to talk about ALS and to spread that knowledge. And then I remembered a quote from somebody almost as famous, actress Lily Tomlin, who said, I always wondered why somebody didn't do something. And then I realized I am somebody. And true, maybe I should do something. So I became a research ambassador in, Rick, I don't remember, 2017 or 2018. And at the time I had approached Dr. Bedlack and said, I would do this a little different. I think from a family's perspective from ALS, I would do things a little different. And he said, great job, jump in and do it. And apparently that's how those things happen. If you're willing to jump in, we're willing to do it. But our main purpose as a research ambassador is to keep the conversation going. So we advocate. We are the part of this NEALS organization that advocates, and that's a little different than volunteering. So an example of volunteering might be, I always share, one year, I live in Arizona and it gets really hot in July. Like that phrase that you can fry an egg on the sidewalk, that's legitimately true. It gets up to like 127 degrees, right? So in July, we hold an ALS event. And I was asked, would you like to be a volunteer and be a human arrow? And I'm like, yeah, that is so cool. I can put that on a resume. I'm a human arrow. Don't volunteer to be a human arrow in Arizona in July. You stand on the blacktop at a formal event in high heels and direct traffic as an arrow. So that was not my favorite volunteer job, but volunteering is just offering to be a part of something and giving your time to do something. But advocating is to actually write or speak or support or to further promote a cause. It's really just an opportunity to educate the decision makers and the people who can make change about issues that we need them to make change on. And why is that important? Well, you matter, and your words and your actions are incredibly important for delivering the right message. And I say that from a little different perspective than maybe you might hear in other webinars or in other conversations, because I really believe that we are more than patients and caregivers. We're people. We have careers, we have families, we have lives, we have skills. And now we have perspective of what it means to be a part of an ALS journey. And that's really where this research ambassador group is growing, as we are people with skills who are contributing those skills and our perspective to this community. So I'm just very briefly going to touch, not go into any of the advocacy issues very deeply, but just to show you why advocacy is important. So back in June of 2019, the first Congressional ALS Caucus was created, and it had 5 members, and they were committed to listening to anything we had to say about ALS. Fast forward, and over the next few years, we ended up last year, as everybody knows, with this Act for ALS, Accelerating Access to Critical Therapies for ALS Act. And through wonderful patient advocacy from so many different ways and so many different areas, we got enough people onto that board, from 5 all the way up to the hundreds that we needed, until the $500 million was allocated to ALS in December of last year. So that's huge. We are turning the boat. We're moving the needle just by talking to people, educating people, and telling them what we need. Now that might seem like maybe, oh gosh, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with that, and I want to maybe work in smaller groups. We're so lucky on this training to have Lyle with us and talk with us a little bit about the Department of Defense CDMRP program. I've sat on their peer review panel for a couple of years, and it is amazing. It's an amazing experience to be surrounded by science and give your perspective of what life with ALS is like. So if you're not really comfortable in that type of thing, or being kind of put on the spot, being on stage of doing that, as Rick had touched on, there's also a lot of opportunities to just be involved, such as guidance documents. And I think that you're all getting these presentations, hopefully online with links. If not, I can share any of these links with you if you want to look at that. But also the ALS Association Principles for Urgent Patient-Centered Trials. And as Rick also alluded to, patient advisory boards. And I just want to share with you, for those of you who may have sat on a patient advisory board or wondering what that is, it's all over the place. There is not actually one definition. We're looking for people with certain skills or certain perspective or certain aspects of their journey. And companies are coming to us and saying, do you have people that can help us make decisions, that can help us reinvent our websites, that can help us look at protocols, whatever it is that they need. We put word out to our research ambassadors and find them the right people for the right fit. So there's just a lot. There's a lot. You're going to get so much information over the next day and a half or so. And if you're like me, I tried to write down every note and I didn't know where to start from then. But I just want to tell you, if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not sure why I'm doing this, I'm not sure what I'm going to get out of it, don't know where to start. Well, you already have started. You're right here. And you can give yourself the best experience, even if we're not in person, by not just listening, but interact, share your ideas. Your ideas matter. Your life matters. Your experience matters. Everything you bring to this table matters. So share it and network with each other. I'm happy to chat. I'm happy if you send me private messages, whatever you'd like to do. I'd love to share your experience and mine together. So at this point, I just want to say, enjoy the class, learn as much as you can, and I'll see you on the other side of it to tell you how to kind of wrap it up all together and make sense of it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Allison. Does anyone have any questions? I think there was a question actually for Rick. Let's see.
Kevin was asking, how is the concept of screening being formulated and who's being targeted
Rick,
to decide?
How is the concept of screen? Yeah. So you want to take that?
Great question. So we spent a lot of time looking at the natural history of ALS on different outcome measures, including the ALS FRSR. We published a paper on this a few years ago in the journal Neurology. And it turns out that there's some degrees of progression over 6 months that are very unusual. Like, it's very unusual for people to improve by 4 points on the ALS FRSR over 6 months. So that's the first sort of cut that we're going to look at as far as what we would think of as something really unusual happened on this regimen. That's not typical in the natural history of ALS. If we don't have anybody that reaches that threshold, then we'll look at 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, or just stability. But that's the one that we're sort of targeting first as a screener. And as far as who, well, we're going to let anybody use this tool. As of right now, we think we're going to run it for about 1,000 patients for 6 months and then see what happens, make sure that it works okay. And then if it looks like it's working well, maybe we can increase it to more. But that's I think, the answer to those questions.